So thank you so much again, and I will turn it over to Clark, who is going to lead us in the after show. Clark, welcome.
Actually, Clark put in the thing in the chat saying he'll be right back. So we gotta, make fun of him while he's gone.
Well, then we won't go to Clark for the after show. What did anybody have to say about Bruce? Did you enjoy it? I mean, did you learn anything?
I thought it was excellent. The creativity aspect of it, I picked up on real early in the thing, and I'm sitting here relating it to the various things. But the overall show tonight was excellent all the way around, I think.
This modeler that I mentioned that is taking these older tin plate kind of accessories that we all remember. We probably had some as a kid ourselves. And really, I call it automating the automated accessories of the past. I think that's what he's doing. And I asked him, I said, well, are you using Arduinos? How are you doing this? He said, no, I'm a computer programmer. He said, I'm doing this from scratch. I am literally making everything that I'm using to re-automate the automated accessories of the past. Now, I find that fascinating. I know it's not scale model railroading as all of us are used to. And I don't want to force things down everybody's throat just because it seems interesting to me. Would you be interested in hearing from him?
Don't everybody speak at once.
I think it's a great idea.
I think so. I think that's one of the big things that in a lot of ways we're sometimes missing is the automation.
I do too. And and he talks about, he talks about doing this with a wide range of the old accessories. He told me, he said, remember the old log loaders? And I do. I remember having old log loader, right? And you press the button and all the logs fell out, right? Well, he has automated it now where you press the button and one log falls out. If you want
Remember the barrel.
if you want to have 2 logs, you got to press the button again. If you want 3, you got to press the button again. Well, to automate something like that and to create, in effect, a new accessory using basically the old accessory that we all grew up with, that we know that when we pressed the button, 4 logs fell onto the car, and that was it. Yeah, I was just amazed talking to him. I've never heard anybody doing anything like that in model railroading before.
Actually, I see on some of the Facebook posts, there's a number of guys who are trying to do stuff historical with old Tyco stuff with, and that's all they're collecting and stuff. As you say, it's not scale model railroading, but it is sort of the historical past of what the hobby is, and that's what they're doing. And it's kind of interesting to see some of this old stuff revived again.
Well, and not just revive, but in effect making it a whole different accessory. You remember the guy that we used to have the metal house, and the guy had a flag in his hand, and the train went by, and his hand went crazy for however long the train was by.
Yeah.
He's animated it where the train goes by and the guy slowly raises his hand, keeps his hand up, the train passes by, slowly lowers his hand again. It's a totally different accessory from the one that we used to play with.
Well, he's old now.
Yeah. I know.
Does this young fellow have, did he mention that he has a group of fellows that are like-minded and working on things like this?
He does not. I haven't talked to him. I've got a colleague. He's going to call me in the morning. I'm going to talk to him again because, he doesn't. I told him, I said, I'd love to profile you in one of my articles, but I said, you're not a scale model railroader. And he said, no, I'm not. He said, I'm really not interested in that. I'm interested in the old stuff. And he said, I'm interested in what I can take that old stuff to be and then redo it, and when I first started talking to him and I said, well, what I hear you saying is you are reanimating the old animated things. And he said, no, I wouldn't say that. And we kept talking. And finally he said, I guess you're right. He said, I am reanimating them, aren't I? And I said, yeah, that's how I see it. You're making an animated toy into something totally different in a lot of ways. And I said, I've never heard anybody doing that before with the old stuff. Normally everybody said, well, we got to restore it to the way it operated in 1941. Well, lots of luck with that these days. But this really appealed to me in a lot of ways, because I can see that particularly younger people that have the technology knowledge to be able to do those kind of things, that could well be a part of model railroading in the future. And I don't hear anybody talking about it.
Well, there are guys who are, and we've got a guy up here in our club who's strict information or strict interest is the animation part with the computers and stuff. Model railroading is the aside or the vehicle to get there. Hey, Pat Rivard, maybe we could send you down there and he could animate you a bit. All right. So I'm back. If you want to go from there, Jim, we can go.
Go.
Well, maybe this young fellow would be kind of a portal, and possibly if he asked some of his friends to watch on the YouTube, you might just be attracting some younger people. And we don't.
You never know. But if you don't mind, I am going to invite him to join us one night and let him tell you about it himself, and you let you hear him talk about it, because it's a subject that I don't hear people talk about. I hear people talk about animation, but it's so rare, and
yeah, it would be interesting.
I enjoyed Bruce tonight, and that was totally different topic than what we normally, how we speak here, and scale. But I'm looking back at, and I guess because my age, I sit and I start thinking about where I was in model railroading 30, 40 years ago. The magazine articles earlier in the show tonight talking about sway back cars, the gentleman building out of cardboard, boxes, cutting them up and using them. And I'm very impressed with this final product, and it just makes us, maybe appreciate what we have now, but with all the technology and ready-made stuff, and then all the latest kits coming out and all the parts made for us to go in the kits and so on and so forth. So looking back, it's not a bad thing.
Yep, pretty cool.
Now, why would somebody want to animate me?
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah, you got a point.
Just because Clark would want to pull the strings, that's all.
Oh, marionette. Oh no. Hey, welcome to the after show in part of New Tracks. For those who are on watching on Zoom, we have a lot of fun here, sort of doing the after show, and I call on people. I do have to ask Ted the usual question. What's for dinner?
Oh, here we go again.
What's your usual question, Clark?
What's for dinner?
Food.
Food. Thank you.
Ted, I do have to give you a thank you so much, because if it hadn't have been for you, I would have never been able to ask this young guy today if he used Arduinos. I think he thought I was really, really smart.
Oh, Jim, you're no dummy. Give yourself some credit.
No. You're the one that got me started on Arduinos.
Well, sorry about that.
There's a question on YouTube from Heath from Humanity Junction. Wants to know, what do you think of remote operations and the technology around that?
Well, I think
he actually a little bit of context, he's actually on his website. He's actually setting up a small little N-scale time saver
Yeah.
that is actually he's got a camera on it, and you can actually log in and move the stuff around.
Yeah.
If he
I don't
would, if he would send me an email, I'd love to talk to him.
Well, you've talked to him before.
Yeah,
Who is
he
he?
has been on here.
Oh, who is it?
His name is Heath. Oh, I can't think of his last name. Hurwitz, I want to say. I could be completely wrong on that.
Yeah. If
But
you want to do, if
he's
we
the one
want to,
he's the one that has Humanity Junction YouTube channel.
so if you want to look at remote operations, you might want to get the Silicon Valley lines. There's a model railroad. There's one in Silicon Valley that is very automated. In fact, their dispatcher dispatches their operating sessions from his house.
Yeah, he's actually
No,
that's
I've
where
read
he got
about
the
that,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah, that's where he got the idea from, and he's been in contact with him.
During the NMRA X convention that Phil successfully was part of, the Silicon Valley had slots, and you could ask to run. And I got in on I think it was 2 episodes, and got to run a train. And the other 2 guys that were running trains, one was from England and the other fellow was from Australia. So it was like the Commonwealth was running this layout, and it was fascinating, just fascinating. Now, basically, we went around the loop, but we did pass each other, and there was a few things where we had to slow down, and they suggested we blow our whistle, but we could see they had a camera on the front of the locomotive, so we could, yeah, that's fine, Ken. And we could watch as the towns came upon us, and you'd slow down and blow the whistle, and it was quite neat. I don't know if we could. Do you think we could do something like that on a session, Phil?
You're muted.
That's what I was
I was
wondering.
muted. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think, we could probably ask them, if they would come in. They have done some presentation where they've talked about it and that. I don't know if they'd have a session or anything, but
Yeah, well,
we
maybe we
could
could do like a
definitely talk to
demo,
them. Yeah.
session or something.
But it's kind of interesting. One of the things we were thinking about doing with them for one of our events was having somebody come in and talk about operations and what the skills are you need, and then go there and do demos. And you could also do that remotely too. So the idea is, for someone who's never operated, to show them, how do you do a set out on a trailing point switch? How do you do a trail out on a set out on a leading switch? How do you find and sort some cars in the yard? And if you've done those things and you kind of understand it, they don't sound very scary. But if you've never done it before, they sound kind of scary.
Yeah.
The first question somebody asks you is, when you look at your train, you got to understand which are the cars that are trailing and which are leading in terms of your setouts. Just right there, if you don't know what somebody's talking about, what that means, and the differentiation in work. So it's kind of like, how do you get somebody comfortable with understanding those things without having to go in the fire of actually doing a job without any training?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
So very interesting. Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe maybe Phil, you could investigate that for us and get back to us. I don't want to add too much more to your plate.
Let me ping it while we're talking about some other stuff. Let me ping them, see if they'd be interested in having someone come and do a little talk.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And who's on here? Wave your hand if you are a first timer here. And is there anybody first time?
Well, Al and John put up their hands.
John
Who?
just raised his hand.
Who did?
John Reynolds.
John Reynolds.
Yeah.
Al
All right.
Collins.
Yeah, but he did a clinic, so he's not really a first timer. But go ahead, John.
You're muted.
You have to unmute yourself. Hold on, maybe I can do it from here. because apparently I am now running
The
this.
moderator.
You're in charge. What you can do is tell him that he can unmute, but you can't unmute him.
Oh yeah, I can. I can ask to unmute. There we go.
Yes. And remember, he said he's new to Zoom, so
That's all right. Well, if you move your
should-
mouse around to the bottom, you
well, it
should
looks
be
like
able.
it looks like he's got it on an iPad or something.
Oh, you might see the little looks like a mic and just click on it.
Yeah, remember
The mic would be on the
old-fashioned
top.
style mics?
Oh, a mic's on the top on this one. Okay, mine's on the bottom. So
Yeah, mine's on the lower left.
oh well.
There
Hey,
you go.
hey! High five!
Old dog learned one new trick. Amazing.
Hey, listen, maybe we should animate you too.
Oh, brother.
But, yeah, this is my first after show because my phone died on the last one.
Oh,
Went down, I was down at 0 power. This time I got smart and plugged it into a charger.
look at you. Look at you with technology.
Yeah, right.
Listen, I'm not much better. Somebody said, "Do you do this?" And I went, "What the hell is that? And can you take medication for it?"
Yeah, really. By the way, I love that steampunk thing.
Yeah, that
And
was
the
kind of
idea-
interesting, wasn't it?
It
What
was
is-
amazing. And learning about, even though I think it's way outside my my skill set, learning about what that young fellow's doing with programming and reanimating some of those old animated things would just be something really amazing to watch.
Yeah, I think one thing that Jim is really good at is finding the obscure. But it all goes back. And I've said this, even though, and Jim has said it too. We talk about scale model railroading as really the base for a lot of us, but to the expansion of like what he did with the steampunk, what you're doing with the cardstock, what you're doing, what other people have been doing with other materials, it may give somebody a great idea and you can develop that towards your scale modeling. So you can't just, and I'm a purist, I have to admit, I'm like, it's not scale modeling. But the more the more you learn about it.
When you're in ON30, scale modeling and ON30 are kind of not in the same park for the most part. Semi-scale, yes. Scale, not exactly.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we like to have a good time here, but that was certainly interesting. I think one of the things that is of interest to our whole group is the outside stuff and even in the after show, we talk a lot about just general life stuff. So it's kind of interesting. So it makes good things happen here. I was going to say, where did Earl go? Earl's gone. Hello, Martin. How are you?
Busy as always.
Oh, well, perfect. Thanks for coming out. We love what you do.
Well, yeah, well, if I'm not in the shop building something, I'm busy at the keyboard writing.
I was going to say you're editing something, eh?
Yeah, I already this evening already wrote the next column for the magazine.
Boy.
So I've got my columns already in the folders out into 2023.
Oh, I dislike people like you. I am not a writer. I really have to.
Oh, I'm not either. I just fake it.
Well,
Yeah, sure you do.
I can type, but it all becomes one sentence.
You learn your literature from Goethe.
Yeah, and then I have this program that's called Grammatically, and I just run it through that, and I hope it comes out in some kind of semblance.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's taken me a few decades to be what I declared as almost adequate.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
You know,
Go ahead. Sorry, Martin.
no, it's something you got to practice at.
It's
You
like
know,
anything. It's like
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, and be prepared to accept all the criticism of your wife.
Yes. And
Martin,
you know what? And she is a very good
Yeah,
and she gets me. So she
Yeah.
just shakes her head and goes, "I'll be back."
right. Yeah. Well, yeah. After the first 20 years, mine stopped agreeing to be a proofreader.
Uh,
So
yeah. You do what you can. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I pay that little subscription fee for Grammatically.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, White River actually has somebody on staff who proofreads
yeah.
everything. She proofreads everything.
Uh,
She doesn't care what
yeah.
she doesn't care what it's about. She just proofreads it.
Uh. Hey, Darren, we haven't seen you for a while. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, Clark. How about you?
Well, I'm better now that I'm not researching 55 pieces of fast track stuff. Okay, a little inside joke, and I hate inside jokes, but Darren sent me a list, a whole bunch of fast track stuff, and he says, I'm thinking of getting all this. And I go, well, so I'm looking at all this stuff and I'm going, well, you don't really need this. You need to have that. You need to have this. For those who don't know, I'm connected with fast tracks and I know the products very well. And anyway, so then he sends me a note and he goes, hey, you haven't spent too much time on this, have you? And I said, well, I'm doing some work for you. I'll get it to you shortly. And he goes, well, stop. I go, why? He says, well, I watched the Proto 48 thing. I'm going to go to Proto 48. I went, really?
Okay, I'll have
Yeah.
you know that I spent Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday inventorying my HO stuff so that I can sell it all.
Yes. Well, don't blame, you have to blame the show and a guy named Paul Thompson.
Don't involve me in his nonsense at all.
And David Schultz and his son.
I've already called Paul several times this week and blamed them. So
Nice. All right. Well, that's
And
good.
I've told him point blank, he makes his own decisions.
Yes, sure. All right. Well,
Well, I
He's a
wrote back.
big boy. He can make his own decisions.
I thought it was like an April Fool's joke on, the first of the year instead. And so I wrote him back and said, you could go from these smaller scales to like O scale, then G scale, and then finally get to the 7.5 inch stuff you could really ride on. And so, but you could skip all those scales in between, just go from HO to ride along. I thought that was a great idea.
oh
Okay,
no, where's the fun in that?
Oh, no.
but Roy, like I
Yeah.
said in my email, there is no scale I can ride on. I barely fit full size.
Ah, yes, there is. I know you can ride on the 7.5 inch stuff. And if that's too small, you can go with somebody that's got 15 inch gauge.
KGC is cheaper.
Yeah, that's one quarter scale.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Freddie, how are you today? Are you in Florida enjoying the weather while we're getting snow?
Of course,
Okay. Well,
but the temperature did drop down here. We're only in the 60s now.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, I know it's
my.
rough.
Gee.
Those coats are looking better every day.
everybody give
Every
the
way,
one
yeah.
finger salute to those in California and those in Florida.
Well, we appreciate everything we can get down here.
Oh well.
I
yeah.
heard it was cold in the Panhandle.
Yeah.
Panhandle was cold.
Aren't you glad though you weren't in Virginia?
Oh,
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that road very well, way too well.
Like, have you thought about a snowplow?
Oh, I just don't go out there.
No, I wouldn't either. If
Even when it's not snowing, I don't go down that road if I can help it. That's one of the top 5 worst stretches of highway in the country. So let's throw snow on it and see how much better it gets.
one time I was in, it was February, and I was in San Francisco for an NMRA meeting. And we came out and there was actually a 1/2 inch of snow.
Yeah.
And the guy, one of the California guys, looks at me and he throws me his car keys. He says, "I ain't driving in this. You're used to it." So,
He might have been smart.
yeah. So, well, I said, hold my beer. This could be fun. But, anyway.
So it's not just California. I ended up in Dallas. I flew into Dallas and I was flying through, and the planes all got shut down. Got to spend the night in the airport in the lounge. And the next day I didn't have to go anywhere, so I rented a car, and they'd had 2 feet of snow in Dallas.
Ooh.
And they have 17 pieces of snow removal equipment in Dallas, which consists of trucks that they can drop gravel on they don't have anything to remove snow in any meaningful way whatsoever from the city. And I'm not talking about the airport, I'm talking about the city. And so you were driving around, and these people have no concept how to drive in snow. I mean, literally, you would drive down a block and there would be 3 accidents, and they were just going everywhere. It's pretty amazing. So,
Well, we're not immune to it. The first snowfall in Toronto, I can tell you, it's bumper pool.
Yeah. But imagine the first snowfall in decades. It's something beyond bumper pool. It's pretty amazing, but it's the same here.
Around here in Toronto, I drive for a living, and they mention snow in August in the middle of a heat wave, and everybody forgets, oh my God, it's going to snow. Well, it's 104 degrees. It's not going to snow today, people.
Hey, I remember I flew into San Francisco, and a friend of mine drove me to the regional convention in Reno. And it was in early spring, and you had to have chains to go over the mountain range, and it was snowing like hell up there. So that was an interesting thing.
You got to watch flying, because I remember one time flying out of Vancouver, and we were all in short sleeve shirts, and and we landed in Calgary to pick up some passengers on the way through to Toronto. And when they opened the door in Calgary, the guy got on in a parka, and the snow flurries blew the whole length of the plane, and it was like, just unbelievable. And I said right then and there, I said, I have no more desire to ever go back to Calgary.
So
that's like the people, all the snowbirds, they get on the planes here in Toronto, and then their shorts, and they fly down to Florida. Then on the way home, they got their parkas.
So it's kind of just the opposite. So years ago, I worked for a Canadian company, and I was going to Toronto, or actually to Ottawa, and I did the trip fairly regular. And it was one of these times in probably January out here where it was hitting 70, 75 degrees the day I left. And I was running around getting everything together, and I got out of here. I got over the airport, got on the plane, flew all the way up there, walked out of the airport in Ottawa, going to the car, which was outdoors, and realized I had no coat whatsoever. I had just basically, work business shirts on. I mean, I had a sport coat, but nothing warm. And it was pretty cold. It's pretty cold in those places.
Yeah.
When you're not used to it, it's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the lack of preparation.
Yeah, when I remember when I went to basic training in El Paso, Texas, they wound up getting 3 inches of snow, and the Army base was the only thing that was moving, because we're on the Mexican border. It's one of those things of 3 inches of snow that they closed down for 3 days because they didn't know what to do.
You know what Al does when it snows? He gets his tractor out and he goes out and has some fun, don't you, Al? At the moot.
I love what they did when I was over in Scotland one time. They had these barriers. They just threw them across the road, and everybody said, well, we waited for it to melt.
My
3 months later.
uncle lives down off the Straits of the St. Lawrence in New Brunswick on the North Shore.
Oh, good.
Near Chatham, Miramichi. And he used to
Hi, Fred.
Have a good one.
He had an old pickup truck, an older one from the 80s. It was diesel, 4-wheel drive, posi front and rear, and he could go through 4 feet of snow without a plow on it. And he'd run right out the field, 600 yards, and he'd run thin tires so he wouldn't rise up on the snow. And yeah, it was quite the would have been quite the adventure.
And 2 bottles of Screech. But
Yeah.
so Al, do you just get out your handy tractor and go out and plow, don't you?
Oh, I have a blower. I got a 6-foot blower.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
I got somebody that comes and does mine.
Oh, nice.
I was thinking I might do that. I'm getting tired of getting all those clothes on.
Let the young guys do it and earn some money.
So
Yeah.
just in danger of having a number of single middle fingers flipped up at me. Our view is profoundly different here. We visit the snow.
Yes, yes.
Well, you're welcome anytime.
We don't live in the snow. We visit the snow.
Visit the snow. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
there's this great
Best-
correlation between the difference between children and grandchildren and living and not living in the snow. So you got to think about it exactly the same, right? Not living in the snow is just like having grandchildren. You get to enjoy them and they go away. So you get to enjoy the snow and then you leave.
And you leave.
Yeah, it really is true. I mean, so it's, what's interesting is you guys have seen this. They've had 14 feet of snow where we have a cabin up in the mountains. We have 14 feet of snow up where we are, and it's a 3-hour drive. So it'll be 65, 70 degrees here, and you're 3 hours away from 14 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Why would you want to
Is
go?
that up in,
Or no, you go for skiing. You go for mountain stuff for skiing. It's the best.
Oh, okay.
Some of the best skiing in the world.
Yeah.
If you've never
is that
skied there.
Tahoe?
Yeah,
On
Tahoe.
Tahoe?
Tahoe. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've
2
skied mainly
degrees.
at Squaw and Alpine. So
Temperature
Okay, yeah,
drops.
I skied at Squaw for 3 days. I flew in on
Yep.
the red eye and I flew out and I skied for 3 days.
And you had to recoup for a week.
Must have been one heck of a hill if you were going down for 3 days.
so
Well,
so
at Whistler, you can pretty much go to the top of the hill at Blackcomb and have breakfast at the top, lunch in the middle, halfway through the day, halfway down the run, and then dinner at the bottom. My sister used to have an excursion, and they always took chains into the mountains because they were up there quite often years ago. And the guys would be out doing the inspection to make sure that, and they'd just wave them through and go, yeah, you get stuck, we're all screwed.
Well, this is me going for a bag of milk.
Is this at your place, Clark?
Yeah.
Right now?
No, not this year. No.
Oh, okay.
No, this was like 2 years ago.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, we don't have that much snow right now at all.
How much
So
you got,
Clark-
Carl?
Clark, before I've got to run, but I had to ask one question, and this is I don't want this to seem too pernicious, but when you put the doors up on your building, they had breaks at different positions in the middle of the doors
Right.
between the boards, and I was wondering how kind of the thought process was that those were attached at those break points.
You know, I'm
I
not,
mean,
I'm
yeah.
just going by the model, but I think in real life they had like a rail across the back.
Yeah, but I guess that, I mean, my thought process was normally when you have boards that go together, they have to go together on a backing board of some kind.
Oh yeah.
So you can board, and the problem was on doors normally, like on walls, you'll have, a framing stud and you'll have some of the boards break there, but they'll break regularly. And on the door, you typically only have top and bottom nailing points. And then if there's a diagonal crossbeam, maybe on the diagonal. But I was thinking if you got pieces cut at different points in the door, I'm not sure how you secure them together.
I think it's just they have, I would think, and I'm not, I'll have to think about this prototypically. Either Al or Larry might even jump in. They probably have a frame and then the boards are attached to it.
Right. But what I'm saying, but if you look at the board, if you look at the door you had,
Yeah.
there were three breaks in the boards, and they were at different heights on the doors, which means you have to have 3 different frame rails across the door for those
No,
breaks.
no, it wasn't trimmed yet.
It doesn't matter about trimming. It matters about the ends of boards can't hang out in space. Like if you think about your house, you're putting siding on your house and you've got studs like this. You would never have two boards come together in the middle between studs and hang out in space. And that's what I'm saying is when they're at random points on the height of the door, I don't know how the supports would fit. And it's a good time to look and think about it now and think about what you want to do versus when you get them glued into the model is all I'm saying. Just look at it and think.
Oh, I see. Oh, you're saying in sort of the little piece.
Well, put your slide back up. Put your slide back up and I'll explain it right on the slide.
I got it now. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I just glued them on, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's one of those things that if you don't kind of think about it, because you're gluing on a flat surface, so it doesn't matter in the model.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I
cool.
totally get it. I'm trying to if I go
it's one of those things I do all the time is you do something because you do it different, you do it just good, and then all of a sudden you think about it later, you go, wow, that's not gonna line up the way I want it. So anyway,
that's a good point. That's a good point. I'll have to look at I'll revisit it.
Maybe the doors, the wood on the doors are all
very
tongue-
observant.
maybe the wood on the doors is tongue and groove and it holds it together that way.
You got it.
Yeah.
Hey, Clark,
My desk,
I gotta run. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks, Phil.
My
Cause
desktop,
trouble and leave, eh?
the desktop I'm at right now is three 14-inch 2x14s, and they're tongue and groove.
Wow.
All right,
Yeah.
what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut off the YouTube and we're gonna say goodnight. But to the YouTube people, thanks for hanging in for the after show. But if you'd like to join us live, you can go into Zoom and subscribe through the Facebook page or the website, and you could join us live on the Zoom call for the after show. So we're going to carry on, but we will end the live